Hello coders, welcome to another How to Code Well Laravel tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to add parameters to Laravel Middleware. I'm going to show you what it is that we're building, I'm going to show you the code, and then I'm going to build it from scratch. So let's get into the browser. In the previous tutorial, I demonstrated how to pragmatically log users in and out in Laravel. And this application we have here demonstrates that. So we've got three options: login as editor. If I click on that, we get welcome test user 1. You have the role of editor. I can log out and log in as a manager. And it says welcome test user 2. You have the role of manager. And again, I can log out of that as well. Today, I'm going to be taking this one step further and demonstrating how we can use middleware to control which user can look at which page depending on their role. And we do this by supplying parameters to our middleware. Let's take a look at the code so I can demonstrate how this works. In the database migrations folder, you'll find a migration that will create a roles table. This roles table has the name and description. There is also a change to the users table where we're adding the role underscore ID. In the database seeder class, we're creating all the different roles. So we have an editor role, a reviewer role, a manager role, and we're creating two users. And these users will have either the editor role or the manager role assigned. In web.php, in the routes directory, we have these routes: login, login as editor, login as manager, and log out. To get to the dashboard where we're welcoming the user and telling them which role they have, we need to go through a middleware called check user role request. And we're passing in this parameter, editor or manager, using the pipe to denote the two options. This is a group, and within the group, we have our dashboard controller. At the moment, a user with either the editor or manager role can access the dashboard. That's checked through the check user role request middleware. If I removed the manager option from this parameter and refreshed the browser, I will no longer be able to access the dashboard when logged in as a manager. Let's go to the browser so I can demonstrate that. I'm able to log in as an editor, but if I logged out again and logged in as a manager, I'm going to get a 403 forbidden error. And this is all happening in the check user role request middleware. Let's go ahead and take a look at that file. In tutorial 4 app http middleware, there is the file check user role request.php. This has a handle method where we're passing the request, the closure, and the role. This is the parameter that we're supplying from the routes. The handle method first checks whether the user is authenticated, and if not, we redirect to the login page. We then attempt to get the user from the request, and if the user is not found, we also redirect to the login page. We then explode the roles by the pipe symbol. This is going to return an array of roles that are supplied through that string. We're then checking if the user has a role with the name that is within the exploded role string. And if the user is not assigned a role that is found within the array of roles supplied, we abort with a 403 forbidden error. If all of those checks pass, we then return to the next closure. If that didn't make sense, then don't worry. What I'm going to do is write this code from scratch. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the middleware. I'm then going to remove the parameter from the routes file. In the terminal, I'm going to type php artisan make : middleware, and then the name of the middleware, which is check user role request. This is going to generate our PHP file. So that is within tutorial 4 app http middleware and check user role request. This has generated the standard handle method, and notice we don't have the third argument. The first thing we need to do is check the authorization, so create a variable called isAuthenticated and assign that the value of auth : check. And that is the check method on the auth facade. So make sure that that has been imported. This is going to return a Boolean. So what we can do is check whether that is true or false. So underneath the variable assignment, type if with the statement false is equal to is authenticated. And if the application falls within the body of this check, it means that the user is not authenticated, which means we can return to the login screen. So let's type return, then redirect to /login. The next thing we need to do is get the user from the request. So create a variable called user and assign that the value of request user. And if the request doesn't have a user, then this will be null. Underneath the user variable assignment, type if with the statement null == user. And if the application falls within the body of this if statement, we know that there is no user assigned to the request. And if that is the case, we should redirect the user to the logout page. Type return and then redirect to /login. Now we've established that there is a user and the user is authenticated, we can now check whether the user has the correct role. And we supply the role as a third argument to the handle method of the check user role request middleware. This argument needs to have the data type of string, and we're going to call this role. The parameters supplied to the middleware have to be strings, but this allows us to use substrings with a separator to convert the string into an array, and we can check values within that array. To do that, under the user check, create a variable called roles. We're going to assign that to the return of the explode function. The explode function is going to convert a string into an array based on a separator. The separator that we're going to supply is the pipe symbol. The string that we're going to pass as the second argument to the explode function is the role parameter that we've supplied to the middleware. We now need to check whether the user has a role that conforms to the roles supplied to the middleware. Underneath the roles variable assignment, type if with the statement false == in_array. We need to give it a needle and a haystack. The haystack is going to be the array of roles that we've just exploded. The needle is going to be the role that the user has. So let's create the needle first. So type user role first and then name. The second argument is going to be the haystack, which mentioned is the roles. If the application falls within the body of this if statement, we know that there is a user on this request and the user has been authenticated. However, the user does not have the right role. And in this case, we abort with a 403 forbidden. Type return abort with the code 403 with the message forbidden. The last part of this puzzle is actually supplying the argument to the middleware. And we do this in the routes file. Within the middleware method of the root class, there is an array where we have the check user role request : class. This is actually the class name, and that is a string. What we can do is concatenate another string that has the parameter that we want to supply. Let's type a period sign and then have another string. We need to have a colon, and then we pass in the value of the parameter. So in this case, we're going to check for editor, and I would like to check for a manager. And to separate the two roles, we use the pipe symbol. Now I can supply the next role. In this case, it is manager. Let's save our work and test it in the browser. We're back to the login page, and we can log in as an editor. I can also log in as a manager. If we go back to the code and remove the editor role from this parameter and go back to the browser, I should no longer be able to log in as an editor. I should get a 403. However, I should be able to log in as a manager. There is also a way to supply multiple different arguments to the middleware, and we can do that using a comma. Let's go back to the code and I'll demonstrate that now. Within the string, which has the role parameter, we can also supply a comma, and I'm going to just type the string test. Let's go back to the middleware and I can supply a fourth parameter, which also needs to be a string, and we're going to call this foo. I'm then going to dump and die what foo is and refresh the page. And here we can see the value test that has been supplied as the variable foo. If you found this tutorial helpful, then please do let me know. Give it a thumbs up. The full write-up, as ever, is going to be on howtocodewell.net. If you haven't done so already, please do consider signing up, because there's going to be some tutorials and courses coming your way very soon. If you've got any suggestions on other tutorials, please contact me by going to howtocodewell.net/contact. Thank you ever so much. Happy coding, everyone, and I'll see you again in the next Laravel tutorial.